Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the Astropub, and your moderator here at the Captain's Table, where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen most of the time, all the time now. Today is going to be a different experience because I've been trying to do this experiment where I do more topics-based stuff. Especially with people who want to come on and talk about it, either because they're experts or just because, they want to come on and talk about it. And for today, we have both Naz and Zarrk with here. Both of them have been on the Captain's Table many times before. And so today is not really hey, this person knows a bunch of stuff that they haven't already talked about. But today we're going to be talking about something very specific in relation to what has happened recently, which has kind of changed how Star Citizen's direction is going to be in the next 6 to 12 months. But before we get to that point, let's start with introductions. Naz, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
So hello everyone, I am Nazeris, or NazerisYT on Twitch. I run, or at least the video side of the Pathfinders podcast. We stream that over on my Twitch channel. Then we release it on YouTube in whole and in parts, and then we put it up on several different podcast places such as Spotify. I'm having trouble remembering Apple podcasty places. And there is an RSS. I don't know how those things work. I just post them there. And my co-host is Tree0311 numbers. And we basically deep dive into whatever we can think of. Most of the time, our subjects that we do are prompted by something that somebody said in a Discord or asked a question somewhere. Hopefully, our next episode will be tomorrow. That is the plan currently. But if not, I will be at least doing something tomorrow on my Twitch stream. I also stream other games such as Satisfactory, Star Citizen. I do game dev and some other things. And that is all. The current schedule is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, not Thursday, and Friday is the current schedule.
So I actually had your co-host Tree on the Lore Citizen podcast, which is going to be coming out here shortly. It's probably Tuesday. I was originally going to be Saturday today when we're recording this, but I just did not have the time. I have no time this week for some reason. For the first time,
I don't know where you're putting that out, but if you put it out before Monday, he's going to say in that it's actually Monday, but this Monday he can't do it, so it's our schedule is just all sorts of screwed up.
It's already been recorded. It's already been recorded.
No, it's been recorded for like a week now.
Yeah. All right. Make sure you're following Naz, because that's where he does stream, not just stream, but also like do the recordings on that. There, NazerisYT, on twitch.tv/NazerisYT. Zarrk, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm just your average community member. I play the game. I try to help new people whenever I have the time. And you can find me on Spectrum and on Paul's Discord.
Yeah. Zarrk has been here many times, but just asked to come on. It's like, yeah, sure, why not? All right, so the topic, as I've been alluding to today, is the letter from the chairman. Now, as I always have been saying about this letter from the chairman, before you do anything, even listening to this, if you're watching this after the fact, go read the letter.
Very important.
In its entirety.
Yes.
If you decide to watch Paul's video about the letter when he reads through it, do not play Star Citizen. There's one point during which Paul says, "Chris, you underestimate my ability to break the game." I played Star Citizen, and at this point, the game broke. So don't try it. Paul will break your game.
I cursed it. I did do a full video on it, but there's plenty of other people who've done summaries on it as well. And I always encourage you to read this document. It is important enough that you need to read it in its entirety to understand its context and how it flows and everything else like that. There are some stuff which is a little bit more fluff at the very beginning and towards the end. But even those are kind of important to get the context for how the company's doing and what's going on with the game.
I think the second to last, like the last chunk of paragraph is a necessary one at the very least. If you're discount like the majority at the end, but the last chunk of paragraph is moving.
Yes. Yeah, it's very nice. But at the very least, go do that. Even if you're watching this live, after doing this, go back and read it as well. Because it requires some context for that, and we'll talk a little bit about it, and probably summarize it in a little bit. But it's important that you're not getting your information solely from second or third hand sources, just because that's how you get misinformed, that's how you get angry, that's how you get full of hopium or copium or coping and seething. Seethe and mauled. All those things happen often because of misunderstandings or mis stuff. So try to do that. It's interesting. First.
People have moved away from just calling it just salt.
Yeah.
More variety. Or you guys can also do what I like doing, but I didn't do with the letter because I wanted to make sure I understood every single word. Go pick up an extension for your browser to read it to you.
Yeah.
A TTS.
They exist.
I do that with most of the posts on Star Citizen, just because it flows better, I can hear it, and I'm really bad at reading at a pace that is not going to last 5 hours for a couple paragraphs.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, what we're going to talk about first is the letter from the chairman, our major pullaways. What do we think about it? What do we think about it? What is the big major takeaways, things that are important? You think that it's important for people to understand about the letter, that in terms of its implications for what Star Citizen's going through. So I'll start with that. Zarrk, what did you pull out from the letter, and what do you think is the most important thing for people to pull out from that letter?
I never thought I will ever say this, but the most important part about this letter is probably it seems the Jesus patch will be real. Not in terms of it will fix anything, but we finally have the concrete perspective. Star Citizen in 5 months, and then another 5 months, it will forever change. It's the Jesus patch of change, not of fixing. Things will be broken as fuck.
So it's the Antichrist patch. You're saying it's the Antichrist.
It's the Antichrist patch. It's the Antichrist patch.
It's the Apocalypse patch. It's the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse patch.
And hopefully some sort of savior patch will come afterwards to rein them in. But the main takeaway from this letter is really everything will change. Many people will have a very, very rude awakening. They will wake up and they will think, what the fuck am I playing? Why do I play this game? Why did I choose to take this suffering?
Mm-hmm.
And even those of us who have an idea what Star Citizen may or may not become, we will be in for quite a few surprises when we finally get hit with the reality of this is the game now.
Okay. Naz, same question. What did you pull? The thing you pulled out, and the thing that you think is the most important that people kind of learn about it.
Well, one of the biggest things is they understand that what we're about to run into, the 3.18 4.0 spacing. Mm-hmm. They saw what happened with 3.0 and they're like, okay, we can actually plan for this now. So when a lot of people say, like, have they not learned from the past mistakes? All the patches are late, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they do learn. This is them learning. So being able to foresee this and to plan for it.
I would say learning and telling us. That's the other part that they have a problem. They learn and then don't say anything. This is actually a little bit better.
For instance, iCache. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is the realization that happens basically every time Chris or Tony or any of the heads of any departments open their mouth and like, hey, wait a minute. They actually pay tension, and they actually know what the game's doing. It's not a mess of just like a developer went rogue one weekend and now there's a feature.
Yeah.
They actually like it. There is a plan. It's a concrete plan, and they're working said plan. However, like
I mean,
stuff comes in and breaks it up.
sometimes it feels like a bit of the God's great plan. You get told there is a plan, you don't know what it is, and this is like a bit of some prophecy. Like, okay, this seems to be the plan. Now we can maybe understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also they are definitely planning post, definitely post launch of Star Citizen, but post Squadron 42 series.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean,
they basically like laid down like, hey, we're not building Squadron 42. We're not building Star Citizen. We're building Star Citizen 2. We're building, was it Squad 6036 or something? I think Tree is on about.
No.
I have.
Platoon 6.
Platoon 6, okay.
Yeah, 6 Platoon.
When you talk about what they plan ahead, I have the small idea. The reason why we don't see a lot of theaters of war is they plan to do more with it. You just have to look at Battlefield 2042 and the dumpster fire it was. Now imagine Theaters of War comes out. It is already, from its concept, a better Battlefield. and it actually works.
Works.
Yeah, it actually works.
That's a bold statement for Star Citizen. All right, I'll just say that.
Have you tried throwing a grenade in the past 5 years?
Just imagine they throw out Theaters of War as a standalone game that works fine.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that plays Battlefield or wants a Battlefield experience comes over. They are done. They can print money now.
Or they do what every other company is doing and say, hey, Theaters of War is free to play. Buy skins.
I've been a big proponent that Arena Commander and Star Marine and Theaters of War should be remolded into a single entity with more of a future of Star Citizen in mind, and making it a free-to-play kind of taste of the experience. But that also takes time and money, which they don't have. So,
well, they do have the Arena Commander team now, so
yeah, they do.
But I don't think it would be a good choice to make Arena Command, Star Marine, Theaters of War free to play to get people to play Star Citizen.
Well, we have free flies, so it's kind of...
Yeah, we already have free flies, and Star Marine, Arena Command, Theaters of War, they are much more arcadey than Star Citizen. So people that think, oh, this is the light version, Theaters of War is the light version, it's the Battlefield demo of Star Citizen, and if I get in the game, it's the same thing but much larger. They will be disappointed.
Yeah. Remember also how we're supposed to access the arcade modes.
Yeah.
The original Vision and the Vision they re-upped basically when Babbage came out, which is you're supposed to load into the persistent universe, or not the persistent universe, or Star Citizen, and then you're supposed to awaken your hab, walk over to your sim pod to load into Arena Commander, Theaters of War, and Star Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Who of you remembers the Genesis concept where you had the first class luxury version with the sim pods for the seats? Yeah.
So
weren't those just like shoe-ins for luxury seats?
They may have been, but I remember they had some sim pods ideas because they wanted to also have it be like competitive or not competitive, but like things for military transport, so you could be training while you're flying, sort of thing. I think it's something like that. But back to the original concept, which we're talking about the letter for the chairman. I will say the important thing, both of y'all kind of hit on a lot of it. The change is going to happen, and that there's definitely a plan. The important thing I think that it's important to emphasize is that CIG is nowhere near complete with Squadron. They're also nowhere near complete for Star Citizen. Star Citizen, even 4.0, is not beta. It's still alpha. They still have a long ways to go, and that we're still in a long distance. And remember, everything that they said in the that Chris said in there is probably still an estimate. They probably would like to release 4.0 in spring. Could it slip to summer of next year? 100%. The fact that they really don't know, and that's one of the reasons why I'd like people to read it themselves, is because he constantly talks about how this is a moving target because we don't know what's going to happen when we activate PES. PES could be fine, and then we could roll right on, or it can be completely screwed because y'all are crazy. He basically says, you will do dumb shit. We know the Star Citizen community will do dumb shit in our game. So we have to start to anticipate what dumb shit you all will do so that, when the game breaks.
Janitors and dumpster finds.
Yeah.
Yep. Like, he even mentioned, like, one of the things he threw out was making littering a crime stat.
Yeah.
Like, just hardcore crime stat second you litter.
That sounds more like a criticism, but it's still one of those.
I'd like it.
I'd like it too.
I mean, we already have it in real life, Shanghai.
Yeah.
Throw your chewing gum on the ground.
Lower your social
Go to prison.
Yeah.
So, this whole letter spells out a lot of things as well. And the other thing I would say is there's going to be a long road to 4.0. That was the other thing. This is not something that is easy to plan for. It's not something that's going to be 100%. They have plans, and these things might happen. But we do know for sure that we're going to be getting a 3.17.2 and a 3.18. And I'll do the quick summary of the 3.18 is that 3.18 is going to be going into PTU or into an Evocati sometime in the next couple of months. And then it will go from Evocati to first wave PTU, second wave, and so on over the course of 3 to 6 months. It'll come out sometime in quarter 3, which, again, CIG quarter 3 tends to also go into October or even November. So it could be quite a long time where this is going to be in testing format, possibly even beyond CitizenCon, most likely beyond CitizenCon for release, but we'll see.
Mention what's in.
I mean, for the new backers that joined after the 3.0 patch, it might seem like a long wait because the patch gets pushed, but as a veteran, and I'm sure that all the other veterans of this game can agree with me, sometimes you have to wait for the good stuff. It's as simple as that. And we waited 8 months for 3.0, and hell, it was worth it. The moons looked like shit at first. They had bugs like nothing else, but it was awesome as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And
people
the persistence, same thing. If we have to wait another year for the persistence, okay, it's fine. Not gonna lie, it's be said, I would love to see CitizenCon, hey guys, persistence goes live now.
Yeah.
And it would be great if they hit 4.0 PTU in around Christmas and maybe release it in March. But if it's another 6 months on top of it, it will be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is I think, again, my point is, I think that what people really need to know is that this is not something that is certain. It is something that is them planning, and they'll probably miss it because this is CIG. They're very good at some things, and they're not so good at others. And estimations is one of their weaknesses. They're getting better at it, but they're still pretty bad at it. Now, what's coming out with 3.18, as Naz was saying, well, what's coming out in 3.18? Persistent entity streaming, which is the replication layer. I always call it duplication layer. The replication layer, full persistence, the death of 30K, plus salvage and cargo refactor, plus full implementation of Gen 12. Like, there is some big stuff. That's the reason why Zarrk said it was like the Jesus patch, because it's going to feel like you got punched in the face.
Also, Bounty Hunting V2, which is the tracking of entities.
That's not confirmed.
V2 is, I think...
I did say players will be able to enjoy persistent streaming, salvage, cargo refactor, and Bounty Hunting V2.
That was
Oh,
in reference to, and this is why context, that was in reference to like all of 3.18 and 4.0. So we don't know 100% if bounty hunting is going in yet because it's not on the release view and it's not on the progress tracker. So it's important to keep that in mind as well. Might be able to enjoy all of those are still currently planned, and I don't think CIG, and Chris has even said in the letter that those aspects, those things are the reason why they're waiting till spring 2023. The reason why they're waiting until fall to get this instead of releasing it earlier is because none of those things make sense without persistent entity streaming, which indicated that those things are probably, and even if you look at the monthly reports, they definitely have more completion than you realize. It's just they require other aspects from persistent entity streaming or PES to function at their higher levels. So we'll see. So 3.18 is a big patch. Could it be stripped? Of course it could be stripped. We could all be consumed by a giant black hole that appears in the center of, Austin, Texas. I could turn into flowers in front of you. Anything is literally possible, but based off of the context of what has happened, it's unlikely, I think.
To be honest, I don't think 3.18 will slip much past CitizenCon.
I think
Simply
it would
because.
I think it's more likely that
because,
we'll see 3.18 slip than things inside 3.18 slip.
Yeah, considering the fact that Chris got out and said, "Hey guys, we preemptively push 3.18 3-4 months behind."
Mm-hmm.
Considering how sparsely he has given any dates since the huge debacle 2016, and how much they dislike to give any dates in general, I do believe that they probably plan with the persistence entity streaming for July.
Mm-hmm.
And they just say, "Hey guys, it will break. We have to do this right. We throw in another 3 months."
That sounds about right.
But, and that's why I think it might actually hit the target for a surprising change.
I would be very happy if CIG under-promised and over-delivered. God, I'd be so happy if that was the case. But I'm tentative on that one. All right, so what should people be expecting, when it comes to, say, 3.17.2? Because for those of you who don't know, 3.17.2 is going to be coming out in replacement for when 3.18 was supposed to come out. What are you expecting from this patch? Because they haven't really been super specific. They've said things like new missions with reputation for illegal cargo, and I think the Siege of Orison are the two big ones that they've added. Are you expecting anything else other than those things? Let's start with you, Naz, on this one. Who's the last one to talk?
They just say they're going to be polishing some of the events, Ninetales and Xenothreat specifically they mentioned, or he mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And basically anything that is done by the time that is ready to go out should be going out in that patch. If it doesn't rely on persistent entity streaming or server meshing, it's going to be published. That is the biggest evidence, anti-evidence we have of Theories of War coming in that patch is it's done. It is code that is finished, kick it out the door. It's going to go badly, as all their games do. Kick it out the door, it's done. Let the feature team then or the arena commander team take ownership of it, and then maintain it and fix it over the course of that patch. Instead of waiting. Basically, they want as much content as possible that is done out for the people who don't want to go to PTU. Because everyone who does want to go to PTU will have all the new stuff to play with, because we got at least 2 or 3 different major changes to missions or game loops. So giving players that are staying on live something to go do as well, which will also kind of balance out the people who want to go play Star Marine and people that want to jump on the PTU. So basically all the code that is, as he said, stable.
So you're thinking that we'll get Star Marine, or not Star Marine, we'll get like Theaters of War out for 3.17.2.
Very shaky hypothesis, but yes.
Okay.
Just because it's as done as it has been for months.
There has been some. I remember there's some files that have come out for like showing Theaters of War and like in game, either through a PTU patch or an Evocati patch or something like that. I remember this.
I forgot about the AI stuff.
Yeah, there's
planetary navigation's going in.
Oh yeah, and planetary navigation. That's coming. That's coming in 3.17.2, right? Yeah, it is.
Yeah. That Siege of Orison is going in 1, right? 0.1?
It might be coming in 0.1. I think it's coming in 0.2 though.
Oh, 0.2? Okay. Yeah. I have heard of it. I heard leaks from everywhere. I've just never actually looked into them. Mm-hmm. Because they're leaks, and I try and normally stay away from leaks. So actually, because of Space Tomato, I saw the new uniforms before anything else. I'm like, oh, where'd this come from? No. And the only source I could find was a thumbnail off to the side in like an ad for a channel on some Chinese website.
Yeah.
Like, where did this come from? Only to find out it was a leak. Yeah. Like, I didn't want to see that. That's super cool. I would love to see that in game. But like super like cyberpunky neon stuff going into the game, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Like it's very not traditional Star Citizen.
There's someone in the chat pointed out, it's like, well, I thought Theaters of War was given to a content team because Sony bought Firesprite. That is true. They formed a brand new team called the Arena Commander team, who's responsible for Arena Commander, Star Marine, and Theaters of War. And I know at least one of those people is actually from Firesprite. I've heard that. There was a member of Firesprite who was working on. I think it was the guy who they interviewed a lot. The guy who was giving those updates. He is actually moved over to CIG to work for CIG.
We do also need to give a small hand to CIG for finally outsourcing something that worked.
Yeah.
Like they to be honest, they had outsourced their show media for a while. I think the last 2 or 3 shows, their transitions and not ads, but their sizzle reels for their citizen content has been by its outside media company.
Mm-hmm.
Where else did they outsource? Concept art is outsourced a lot. Yeah. Like you can find all over ArtStation. Like I worked on this ship, and this ship.
They have a complete. That was the other thing from the letter that I forgot to mention, which was which this is why it's important to read it. Is they outsourced all of their hiring. They have a completely different company now that does all the hiring for them, which is why they have.
I thought they said they had an in-house team that's like 20 strong.
They outsourced it, I believe.
The talent something or other.
Yeah, it's a team, an outside team that they hired for it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Global talent acquisition team.
Yeah. So.
Turbulent. We now have a 7-person team. Okay.
Yeah. So that's cool.
I'm sure we'll get more into the hiring stuff later.
Yeah. Well, probably not here. We'd be here for 2 hours. I know Naz wants to sit here for 4 hours and talk about the game.
I've already done this. Yeah. This should be up on my YouTube. I've already done this whole like walk down everything. So I could just regurgitate everything I've done. So.
Yeah. So they outsource a talent search. Yeah, and then they have a team that actually.
Okay.
Them. Yeah.
Cool.
So, with that all being said, I'll say that was your 3.17. Zarrk, what would you pull? What are your pull away? What do you expect from 3.17.2?
So, first I throw a bit of cold water. I don't think Theaters of War will be in 3.17.2. Simply because the main problem with Theaters of War, to my knowledge, was the network code, desync issues, and so on. And considering that they pretty much revamped the whole server structure, going for the replication layer, going for server meshing after that, I suspect if we see Theaters of War this year, 3.18, it comes in with the replication layer, which probably might have some sort of positive influence on the desync. Simply because that's the backend they will work on, and that's the backend they will fix the desync for. So I can't see them throwing out Theaters of War, having the bad experience still due to the desync, and
That's actually a really interesting line of thought. They've thinking they built the current version of Storm or There's War for the new backend, which makes sense. Like all the stuff that we're getting is built for the next backend, so that actually makes a lot of sense. Like I said, it was very shaky, but
yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, would be great, but I don't see it for the old backend.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And the other part is, I don't think we actually need to see that much more than what they said. Siege of Orson, huge new dynamic event, will probably be great. City fighting, another one of those events where you can see this is nothing more than prototyping something that they copy paste through dozens of landing zones once they're done and give us whatever we want to play. Break it down in smaller missions like go and infiltrate this skyscraper in Arcorp. This event, together with another one of Xenothreat, another one of Ninetales, another one of Jumptown, we already have so much content in game just from those 4 events. It's massive. Then we have new illegal missions, or general mission support for the unlawful side. Probably, yeah. I am happy as well because right now, it's not worth it to go illegal. Sadly,
no. There's no point.
Then you just throw in a revamp of the bunker missions where the NPCs actually come in, fly in because we have the server, we have the nav mesh. They can run in from the outside down into the bunker. They don't have all those shaky doors where they pop up or don't pop up. You have cave missions where we can do these things much better, and that's more than enough.
Okay. I think CIG's got something stupid they're going to do. Let me explain this.
What level of stupidity?
Break the servers and make everyone cry. For good reasons, though. They'll have for 3.17.2 the global mesh, the mesh that basically allows player or NPCs to walk on the surface without having to be scripted to walk on that surface. And in theory, they even talked about how it can literally go anywhere if they wanted to. I expect CIG, especially since I wasn't expecting the Siege of Orson the way that they did it, which is if you actually go to it today, you can go to the site of where the event's going to take place and see some of the parts that are set up, because they left it in because you have to go out of your way to get there. But it's huge. It's 4 different platforms, and those platforms are massive with multiple levels.
4 of them?
4 of them.
I found 1. What do you mean there's 4 of them?
There are
huge.
4.
I spent almost an hour just yep, this is spooky because everything's already destroyed.
Yes.
Speaking of, I found the exact, well, I guess they copy pasted it a bunch of times, but the office shot where they're like, this is a place on Orison, where will it be? I found that place.
Yeah.
Except there's a lot more tipped over chairs in it.
Yeah, which also shows that they probably have that whole area is also going to be in a non-destroyed state when there's no event. So it could be that you just have an area like that. So and from what I've heard from the testing for that, because they've actually tested it, is that it works pretty good until it gets to the finale, the last stage of the mission, and then it
that's every dynamic event.
Yeah, then it crashes the server. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you can go and pick up boxes from Xenothreat, but once 5 Idrises for some reason spawn in all at the same time, the server goes down.
Usually, at least with Xenothreat, it just the event breaks rather than the whole server crashes. So, as a result, this whole event is going to be taking place. It is obviously in atmospheric flight with ships and on the ground. That whole thing tells me that, plus the nav mesh, planetary nav mesh, tells me that they're going to do something like that further, either in 3.17.2 or 3.18. Possibly even mini versions, because they've talked about the idea of having like backup showing up. And they talked about Jumptown version 2, or a new version of Jumptown. And one of the things that they've talked about a lot with Jumptown was that they wanted to make Jumptown have a little bit more of an interesting flavor, where it's not just players fighting players, but have NPCs involved in some way, shape, or form. They've talked about in lore, they've had the lore bit that kind of preceded the new version of Jumptown was Rudo talking to some guy who screwed over Rudo, and Rudo being like, "Hey, I'll give you another shot. I'll disable the anti-air defenses at this place where they have a bunch of leftover maize. Go or slam. I think it was maize. Maize. Go in there and get it yourself." And then he contacted somebody else and said, "Hey, this idiot's going to be here. Go there and take him out. You own it." Because he got screwed over.
Or I throw you a curveball. Backup showing up. Nav mesh, so NPCs aren't restricted to the area anymore.
Yeah.
We might lose the mystic zones in cities.
We might.
Pretty soon. Because this is everything it's busy. The NPCs just need to run around. The guardsmen need to show up where they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Backup needs to come down.
Armistice zones. It's saying armistice zones. So being able to like,
I can see the correlation, but they very specifically put the event zone outside of the armistice zone.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's coming
3.17.2.
Oh, okay.
But I could see it coming. I mean, it depends when they revamp the whole criminal system.
So like 3.18, 3.18.2, or 3.18.1.
Probably more like 3.19, 4.0.
Okay, that's one thing I don't understand. Where is 3.19 and why does it exist? How does it exist?
We're going to talk about that.
3? Okay.
I see some people trying to ask questions for the question and answer session. Make sure you use the coin when you're asking questions.
I swear he said, well,
somebody
said
somewhere. I'll explain it here in a moment, but let me finish up with my thought. I think we're going to see a new and improved Jumptown with reinforcements. Well, there'll be a timer of some kind where you only have access to Jumptown for a certain amount of time, and then eventually NPCs will show up in ships, disembark, and fight you. So that you can't could just lock down Jumptown. You're going to have to constantly fight NPCs and players because you're technically taking over a drug lab that's owned by somebody else, like one of the in-game, like the Ninetales. So they've mentioned it multiple times. It's something that's going to be added in, with the planetary nav mesh, and they've had monthly reports. Every monthly report this year has had ships landing on planets. NPCs landing ships on planets. Every single monthly report. And they've even shown it on NSCL. Or ISC. So
the entire company is more focused than ever.
Yeah. So
like they have their lanes, each team, and each product lead, I'll call them, basically people who take ownership of said features. And they just stay in their lane because they have now instead, because they've done all this team reworking, they don't need to say, okay, my team is all engineers, so I have to wait for UI to get clearance or animation or whatever other team to get clearance. They have at least one of everyone they need inside their team, so they can just go for it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think with 3.17. Now, let's talk about 3.19, because we've sort of explained 3.18 and 3.17. We've talked about what the letter of the chairman says in terms of like how it breaks down. 3.19 is a curveball because it throws up out of nowhere. If you read the letter doesn't mention anything about a 3.19. It says after 3.18 we're getting a 4.0. However, Jake has clarified that 3.19 is there because they think, similar to how 3.18 and 3.17.2, they're going to need to have a patch between, like a quarter 4 patch, which will be after PES is in, but before server meshing is in. Because they want to do a quarter 4 patch even if server meshing isn't available, because server meshing is going to take 2 to 3 months to flesh out. So But instead of calling it 318 dot whatever, they're calling it 319 because they don't know what 318 patch they're going to be on by that point. So it'll just
somebody's OCD. That's what they wanted. They wanted, instead of ticking over 20, it ticks over to 4.0. Somebody just wanted some symmetry and
some symmetry. That's what it is. So there is a 319 on the release view, but that is designed. It's basically a placeholder until they know what's going to happen with 318 when it releases and what's going to happen afterwards. Because, and I will say this. The decision to hold back the release schedule until they have more concrete confirmation of what's coming in, which means that closer to the actual release patch, was a good decision. Because imagine if we saw this today, what we have from this letter of the chairman. Imagine if that happened after seeing a 318 and a 319. And then having some stuff that's already in there, and then having that stuff shift, like say,
especially all the people that don't know that the Q4 patch always gets gutted.
Yeah,
and they are always excited about the cool stuff that's coming in.
Yeah, because CIG is bad at managing expectations. They don't like cutting those things until way too late. So the fact that they just cut it early and just said, we're just not going to tell you until it's closer, manages expectations better. I know a lot of people were angry about it. I know a lot of people were saying this is less information. I don't want less information. I want more information. But the reality is we can see from even Chris's letter, they just don't know concrete where they're going to be in 6 months.
And if you want information where something is, we still have the progress tracker.
Mm-hmm.
You can still check on which ship is there, which new concept ship will come when, which gameplay is worked on, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Just read the damn progress tracker.
And the monthly reports. The monthly reports tells you exactly what's being worked on. You know.
Yep.
They're powerful tools. They help you out, give you some expectations. You're just never going to get dates with those, concrete dates. So, all right.
Didn't there just be a transit refactor on the roadmap? Sorry, off topic.
Yes, it's actually being worked on in the monthly report. I think they mentioned the monthly report. Maybe not a roadmap. It might be in the progress tracker.
I just looked. I can't find anything about transit.
So now, talking about 319, I can't remember it on top of my head, but didn't they say something like 4 or 5 months ago that they are working on crime stats 2.0?
Something like that.
In a monthly report. So I could actually see that, considering Pyro is pretty much all about which gang likes you, which gang hates you.
Reputation.
I could actually see 319 bring in the new crime system or the new reputation system, which will manage the crime stat instead of our GTA 5-star system where you get just hated because you parked on the wrong side, planet away.
I'm not comfortable with guessing what's coming in 319 just because it's really hard to tell what's coming in 318 or when 318 is coming in the first place. So, and especially since it's right now Q4 patch, I can guarantee you that anything that's added to it, unless it's added to it like a week before it releases, and even then, remember, transit missions were added like 2 weeks before it was supposed to go out. And then they pulled it and they've never returned it to the roadmap. So it is entirely possible for them to add things a week before it's supposed to go out and then pull it the next day.
Yeah, I say maybe if we look at like things they might actually bring in the game after 318, but before or with 4.0, this might be better in what will be released with 319 than actually looking at what will be in the Q4 patch, because let's stay with the crime system. If we say, okay, they do the crime system, they are working on it for months now. They bring 318 in, persistence is in, persistence works. Now let's bring in the new reputation system. It might slip 319, but I say with 4.0, it just makes sense that it gets in there. Simply because Pyro is a system that really benefits or lives off the reputation system. In Crusader, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But Pyro is a different beast.
And we know that they made that announcement at the very beginning of the year that they were working on reputation. So one of the first SCL or ISCs this year was them talking about how they're going to be working on the reputation system. It's going to take a while, but like 3.17 added some changes in the back end, and then that they're going to do some further changes as they get closer to the end of the year in 4.0. Because all right, I think closing thoughts. What about this road to 4.0? Well, I actually also mentioned that, remember, 4.0 is likely going to be the same situation that we see with 3.18, where it'll go into Evocati maybe at the end of the year, and then it'll go into PTU and release in like April of 2023. So that's the other thing to take away. I don't know if we explicitly stated that, but that's the other thing to take away is that. So let's get your final kind of wrap thoughts about this new context, like the future, the road to Pyro, the road to 4.0. What is that?
The road to MMO.
Yeah, the road to MMO. What are your thoughts on this? Is it, the goods, the bads? Is CIG making the right decisions? Is it making a mistake? Zarrk, your thoughts?
So, in all honesty, it feels like a love letter, love essay probably, because there's so much awesome information in there. If you dig through it, it's just awesome. That's what I missed in all the ISC. That's what I still am very sad that we don't have our 45-minute ISC shows anymore. It's information upon information. It's with really cool tidbits like, yes, we already have working persistence. Now it's just now we just have to test this on the big server and with 50 people and what crazy stuff they do. And the biggest part is really it's not the the state, or after reading it, it's not like the past 10 years where, okay, we know where we want to end up. We have a rough idea. We want server mesh, we want persistence, we want this and this and this. No idea how it's gonna happen or when. And now we have, for the first time ever, a concrete plan that says, hey guys, persistence is already working. We throw it on the servers in June, July. It will damn sure break, so we keep 3 to 4 months to iron out all the kinks, to throw to the PT, to the Evocati, to the PTU, through the PTU, then release it at CitizenCon, probably. I mean, they never spoke of CitizenCon, but that's what they usually like to do. Then we support this whole thing for another month or two, so it's stable and working. Then Christmas, we test the dynamic server meshing, the static server meshing. We take a look, can we make Pyro a possibility? We throw it in Evocati, we throw it in PTU, we let it run 2 to 3 months until it's ironed out. Then the MMO stands. Next year, spring, early summer, Q1, Q2, the MMO is there. That's where the absolute backbone, the last major technical hurdles are all done, and the only thing that's left, if we are very optimistic, is pretty much more systems, more professions, more ships.
Yeah, it's
all that's left.
Chat has also been pointed out, which is something that we should probably illustrate, is that it's static server meshing. It's not dynamic server meshing. However,
for those that don't know,
go ahead.
There will be 2 stages of server meshing. The first one is static server meshing. Each server will get a certain region of space. For example, Crusader is one server, Yella is one server, Daima is one server, Person is one server, Arcop is one server. These servers are only there for this region. And if all players decide to play on Crusader, the server will die. The other servers are all fine, but the server will die. Dynamic server meshing is when the servers are not just for a region, but they can actually choose where they are. For example, if all players are on Crusader, the servers from Yella and Daima can jump over and take some load from the Crusader server, so everything runs much smoother.
Yeah, that's effectively it. Now, I will also illustrate that I think that a lot of people are making a big to-do about the difference between server meshing and static server meshing, or dynamic and static. But in terms of actual practicality, I doubt there's much difference in terms of a gameplay perspective, in terms of gameplay design, other than the number of people in an area.
One of the biggest differences is basically javelin or not. So.
Yeah, it's capital ships, but that's about it.
I mean, the biggest difference is, do they increase the player count to 100 or to 1,000? That's the only thing that's changed. And we will probably see 100 or 200 players on a server with the static server meshing. You will not notice any difference.
Yeah. The point is that I don't think the fundamental difference between server meshing, static server meshing, and dynamic server meshing is not going to affect salvage. It's not going to affect mining. It's not going to affect bounty hunting. It's not going to affect piracy or base building. That doesn't really matter in those sorts of situations, because the static versus dynamic is mostly how the servers act. I don't think that there's going to be much code in the back end in terms of how differently a base is going to have to act versus static versus dynamic. It probably wouldn't.
It probably wouldn't even make a difference if you only fight one Idris versus one Idris, or even one Javelin versus one Javelin. You only will really notice it when you go 20 Idris versus 20 Idris. Then you will notice the difference between static and dynamic, but that's long away.
Yeah. Naz, last thoughts on this whole road to 4.0.
I'm glad we finally have it. I'm glad they saw what was going to happen coming and gave that out. I'm sad that I guessed wrong, but I guess everyone wins.
We all told you were wrong, but you didn't listen.
No, it was best guess. Okay, I said server meshing at year half
318
this year.
Yeah. He said server meshing 318 in January of this year. He was like,
okay. So here's how I look at it.
I like bold statements though. It's okay.
Here's how I look at it. Everyone was right. Okay. Because we get the start of server meshing. We don't get actual server meshing, which technically I'm wrong. But we don't get real server meshing until the end of the year, which everyone was saying, into next year. Q1 next year was the probability. But we get the last milestone before server meshing at 318.
Mm-hmm. Say, Nazeris, are you Canadian? Because your own close enough is only working for Canadians, not for the rest of the world.
No, ouch. I've actually never been to Canada.
Then you're wrong.
Ouch.
Does it count if I'm almost Canadian?
No, if you were Canadian, I would say, okay, you're also right, you're close enough, but if you're not, sorry, you're wrong.
There's some context that I'm not getting there with that, but...
you know how Canadians are supposed to always so friendly?
Yes.
So if you have a winning show or a game show, you only have to be close enough. You don't have to be accurate, 100%. You only have to be close enough. Then you can already win, because they are so nice.
Naz, any other thoughts?
We didn't cover a lot of stuff in it. Go check out the one building and the area around both offices. They are amazing places, especially the place in Germany. The area around the office in Germany is completely getting built up around it. It is going to be such a nice place to work and live.
Yeah.
And then a kind of a reverse question: the title under server meshing on the giant image that we get. It says this will be a static server mesh of one single replication layer, hybrid service, and 4 DGS nodes to simulate Stanton and Pyro. Is it 2 per system or 4 for each system?
That's a good question.
I think we need to speak to an engineer or a tech priest, because I have no idea what they're even talking about.
We need to
replication layer, I'm still fine, but
we need to talk to Starfleet engineers. They'll know what we're talking about. You know.
Okay, no Starfleet engineer knew anything. It was always the onboard engineer. Starfleet comes in like, "Wow, you've messed up the warp core. It's running at 2,000% efficiency. What do you mean I messed it up?" It's like, we need to take readings of this and report back to Starfleet. You do that.
I will say with my thoughts of the road to 4.0, echo a lot of what y'all said. I'm glad there's a plan and that they've explicitly said the plan. We all kind of knew there was a plan in place, but it was nice to have that spelled out. It does feel different than the past, because everything that Chris said in that letter could be inferred if you went back and watched SCL, ISC, read the monthly reports, or read the progress trackers. It wasn't just Chris going like, trust me, believe me, 100% this is happening. It's like, no, you could actually see it being worked on if you follow the development through the back end stuff. So it was nice to be able to see that something is going pretty well with CIG at the moment. At least they seem to have their ducks more lined up in a row for what they're doing.
And Sandgrouper, yes, the NASA might only use 4 or 5 digits of pi, but they don't shoot their rockets themselves anymore. They have to outsource because it's not close enough. They're too sloppy with their work.
Ouch. Let's see. I would still be cautiously optimistic with this. For anybody who's like, oh yeah, server meshing. Server meshing is not going to solve all the problems.
It's going to make way more.
I would expect 3.18 to be worse. And I've seen some people in chat talking today. It's like, well, the new player experience is garbage and all these things are bad. It's going to get even worse. And
do you remember socks?
Yeah.
Who remembers first patch socks?
Yeah.
All over again, guys.
Yeah.
And even worse.
It's just going to be bad. And the Star Citizen experience will get worse. And it's not something that I would sit here and go, Star Citizen is going to be this perfect game in 2 years. But it's nice to be realistic about where we're going.
I can see it 1.0 in 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, but it's as always, what's important to kind of illustrate is that a lot of the things that people are actually complaining about in terms of gameplay, like 30Ks, issues around like player size, like size of the people per server, and desyncs, those sorts of things that they want are going to be addressed in the next year.
I mean, my greatest complaint is that no one's pirating me while I'm doing cargo, but okay.
Yeah. Well, that too. That's part of it, though. Like people, when you're doing cargo, you're going to see, because of things like server meshing and persistence, you will see more NPCs in the universe and those sorts of things. But that requires persistence and server meshing. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, the biggest thing, which probably no one really has on its radar, or no one has any idea what it will bring, is actually when persistent and multiple systems are in the game, we have a huge rebalance ahead. CIG has to rework quantum drive, traveling. They have to balance all those things, and this will probably throw them back by at least 2 patches, I guess. Probably 3. Where the only thing they do is, do we need more gas stations? Do we need more quantum fuel on ships? Do we need less? Do we need different drives? And so on. Just because you don't spawn in your hub on Lowell anymore. You don't spawn on your hub in your space station anymore. You can't go to the ASOC terminal and say, hey, I want my ship. No. You are on the planet in some hole where you left, logged out, there's your ship, you have to go on your ship, and if you messed up, you don't have any fuel, you're done.
Reset, go back to your respawn, which could be in a completely different system,
And this simple balancing of the experience, what persistence will mean. With one system will be a hell of work. 2 systems will be crazy, especially Pyro. If we get a third or fourth system with 4.0 or 4.1, it's only going up. And this is something, it's really just the player experience. It will get swamped with how the game changed and how it's functioning now.
Mm-hmm. I think at the end, this is all pushing towards a better end, going towards the game that they want to make, because these are the last three major hurdles they have, or I guess four major hurdles they have, are persistence, server meshing, Gen 12, the new renderer, and Quanta. All four are being addressed this year in some way, state or form. Server meshing may be the only one that slips, but it's still being addressed with the other things that are being added. So when those four things get added in, it's important to remember that a lot more stuff will be easier and more possible to do, to address the things that people want for gameplay, for more dense universe, for a lot of the things that people have been hoping for.
Actual survival mechanics.
Yeah, survival mechanics. So those sorts of things.
I was really surprised that Chris actually spoke about how you crash on a planet, build your campfire, build your camp, hunt things.
That's actually one thing. Me and Tree talked about, like, I guess building, like, actual placing stuff, like hunkering down or just like constructing the environment around you is going to be much bigger than they alluded to after Rastars kind of gets done, or when Rastar starts to get implemented.
You remember during the River Proto Tech demo 2020, I believe, where they had the grenade launcher that actually made the craters? Well, we might see craters. I mean, they already talk about how we should be able to just cut through walls anywhere we want. We might be able to make craters. We might get excavators. So actually digging down somewhere might be a thing. So, and persistence and server meshing is opening up all those things in relation to base building, to just crazily destroying the environment. And if you think about it, we have farming as a profession somewhere, I believe, in the stretch goal. So not only have you to destroy the environment, but then you have to farm something on the destruction.
Yeah, remake it.
So, boy, this will be insane.
The most ambitious game ever attempted.
Yeah, I'll give it that. It's an ambitious title, and I will also say that it's important to remember, before we're going to move on to the questions and stuff, that all of this is stuff they have no idea how to complete. I mean, they have an idea, they have a concept, but they don't have a plan quite yet for a lot of this stuff. And the big reason why they don't have a plan for this stuff is because they don't know how persistence, how server meshing, and how Quanta will affect the game. That's it. They gotta wait for that. So the good news is things are getting done. Bad news is it's gonna take a little bit longer. But if you've been following Star Citizen for 10 years, then what's another year? Anywho, with that, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching us live, please continue to stick around. We're going to end this recording and we're going to move on to the question and answer session. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, remember, please like the video if you enjoyed this discussion. Make sure you go follow Naz at NazerisYT on Twitch. And is it just the Pathfinders on YouTube, Pathfinders Podcast?
I just posted to my Nazeris channel.
Nazeris channel? Okay, so it's also Nazeris on YouTube. And what else is there? Oh yeah, subscribe. Come join us live every Saturday, or not every Saturday, Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Well, I can't say 11 p.m. UTC because it's not always that safe, but 3 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, it's time zones get weird because America does weird things with time zones compared to the rest of the world. So 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And comment down below. This is going to sound weird, but I read every comment. I may not respond to every comment, but I do read every comment. So your own thoughts on this are appreciated, as long as you keep it, civil and such. And
Or don't get deleted.
I will also, right above Naz, I'm going to do something different because a lot of people don't realize that I do the Q&A separately. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see above Naz a link. That link, if you don't see it, it means it's not posted yet. But if you do see it, it means that it's been posted, the Q&A section for this, which happens directly after this. We record them at the same time, but I split them up because not everyone wants to sit there and listen to a 3.5 hour video. But can do the discussion and then the question section separate. So again, thank you all for joining us. And remember, hope to see you someday in the black.
What if you're in a nebula?
It's still in the black.